Happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Leonne Shore. Sure. My name is Leonne Sherr, and I am here today with the WonderMama Coffee Chat. And today we have an incredible guest. I've been waiting all week to introduce you to her. But before I get started, the intention of the coffee chats. They're really simple. We need to slow down and have some conversations that matter. The conversations that let us slow down and reflect on some things that maybe have been on the back of our minds or on our hearts, then remind us who we are and what we're doing. And before we go too much in it, right now, the Wonder Mama Coffee Chat is something new. I just started in the beginning of the year. We meet here live with our incredible guest. I can't wait to introduce you to her. We meet live with our incredible guests every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And we talk, you get to meet them, and they'll share a little bit about what they're passionate about. And then we'll stop our live and go for a live Q&A with our Wonder Mama members. So, Loretta Omland, I met her several years ago, actually. I think it's been like 3 now. In another group that both of us were kind of looking for support in our businesses. And she just became a really important online friend to me. She's brilliant and she's kind. She has spent decades managing real life chaos. She's helped run a family farm for more than 35 years. Oh, I'm sorry, a family farm with more than 35 employees. Let me get my notes right here. She's navigated blended family for over 2 decades and worked as a social worker for 25 years, specializing in conflict resolution. What I mostly appreciate about Loretta is that this work didn't come from theory. It came from inside the kinds of situations that most families don't plan for until they're already in crisis. So, Loretta, I would love for us to start here, but please say hello to the world.
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction. I do appreciate that. We have been friends for how long? And way back in the day, I don't know if you remember this, Leon, but this is how dear you are to me. When I first started out with the idea of helping people just get organized, didn't even have the idea of end of life yet or helping people plan their wills, you took my spreadsheet, password cheat sheets, and you fixed it all up for me. And I didn't even know you were doing this. And you sent it back to me so I could use it in Excel or I could use it as a PDF. And I have never forgotten that. And you can't believe it today, Leon. That password cheat sheets is still something that people ask for. And it goes
I'm
out.
so
And
glad.
I know that's how good our friendship's been. That's the kind of character you are, and that's the kind of person you are, and that's why I love you. I know how giving you are. I didn't even know you were doing that for me, and you did. So you kickstart me off right from the beginning. Yeah, share the love.
Thank you so much. So much. But you do one of the things, not only organization, but one of the things that you do is even deeper, right? You really help people deal with the what if. What if something happens to me, but really feel overwhelmed of even thinking about planning or anything. And we all kind of carry this secret thing inside of us that says, it's fine, nothing's going to happen today or not to me. Um, so why now, and how do you help parents and now, like, this is coming up for them so much?
Now is everything in today's world, and we think we're too young, we're healthy, it's not time, you have to be old. Oh, I have I don't have enough to make a difference, I don't have anything. There's all these reasons why people think that end of life planning isn't relevant to them, and it's just simply not true. If you're alive and you're breathing, number one, you're going to die. It's going to happen to all of us. And that acceptance is often tough. But number two, if you have anybody close to you at all, a spouse, children, parents, siblings, anybody, your death is going to affect them in more ways than just the emotional loss. Somebody is going to have to take care of your stuff. And I teach people all the time, stuff is a technical term. In my world, you have stuff. But somebody's going to have to
Mhm.
deal with that. And with true intention, people don't mean to leave their loved ones with a mess when they die. That's never anybody's intention, but it happens all the time because of all those reasons. I'm too young. I'm healthy. I'm not old yet. I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to get started. It's not relevant to me, but let me tell you, it is relevant to every single one of us because we're all going to die. So here I am promoting.
Well, it's hard, isn't it? Like promoting that, but I think more than anything, you're promoting responsibility.
Correct.
You're,
100%. Yes. Yes.
yeah, responsibility for something that we just don't want to think about, but it's kind of like everything, we're responsible for our families, we're responsible for ourselves, but also for our stuff. So, my husband and I are currently working um, on his mother's estate, clearing out her home and preparing it and sifting through all of those things. Is this trash or this treasure? And it's hard. So there's that, but it's also she was pretty ready. There's still stuff, there are still things, and there's probably more. And so often you say that organization and honest communication create peace of mind. I remember as we got closer and closer to the end of her life that there were so many questions that I had that nobody was comfortable having that conversation. How did those conversations show up, and how can we practically have those conversations, with our old, we have empty nesters, we need to be getting ready, but we are also still dealing with our families and blended families and all of that. How do we start those conversations?
Yeah, that's a stopping or a stopping point for a lot of people because you simply don't have a reason to just all of a sudden bring them up, except for it stirs in your mind. I like to use tools, organizing tools, and also a will is an easy tool to use to initiate those conversations. So for people who are unsure of what to say to anybody, how do I start that conversation? If you start working on your own stuff, I promise you the right questions come up because you're going to have to start looking at what you have and what would you do, and then your family members all fit into place. For example, I've been working with a mom. She's going into a blended family. She has two daughters. Her fiance has a son. They're all over 18, so they're all, there's no minors involved, but she has jewelry, rings
Mm.
and jewelry, and she has two daughters. And she asked me, she says, how do I decide, and how do I this, and how do I even say to them? And I'm like, well, you're working on your will. That's an easy way to start. I'm working on my will. I'm working on my end of life plan. Is there something that's special to you that you would like to have if something happens to me? That's an easy opening conversation. It's not I don't want to say it's not emotional, but just bridging that gap right there, practical, just being very practical. I'm working on my end of life stuff. I have some special pieces of jewelry or some coin collections or something. I wonder if there's anything special to you that you would be interested in. That's a great way to start. Just
Yeah,
asking what if something happened to me, is there something special you would like?
yeah. And even then, it's still touchy though,
Oh, yeah.
because it brings up so much stuff. It's still touchy. And being on the after side.
Yes.
The fact that those conversations didn't happen, perhaps a piece of something that was important to me went to somebody else who maybe
Right.
treating it more casually. All those strange and the weird family issues pop up.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, so just having those documents ready and those conversations, kind of normalizing those conversations, which is one of the reasons I was really excited to have you, is because it's hard to normalize those conversations. Um,
100%. Yeah. Families don't
no,
know what to do with them. Yeah.
no, and they don't want to talk about dying,
Yeah.
right? Because it's triggering,
Right.
especially for children.
Right.
Oof. So, for someone who feels really behind, like you just talked about that, it's like the first one or two steps you said were to just start, right? Just start
Yeah.
the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, so, how can parents talk with children about death and dying in ways that feel grounded and
Oh,
age appropriate rather
that's
than frightening?
That's
Yeah.
such a great question, Leon, and it's so very, very important. And that actually is how my conversations got started 20 some years ago. We had a family pet. I was a single parent back then, and it was just me and my daughter, and we um, went to the pound. You know, when your kids are tugging at your heartstrings, can I get a pet? Can we get a dog? Can we get a dog? Can we get a dog? Pets are great teachers. We got a dog. And
Mm.
that dog slept with my child every single night for 2 years. That dog for us was her kind of recovery from my divorce and from all that was going on. And the dog got run over. And oh my gosh, it'll make me emotional thinking about it. But um, we found her before she had passed, and the dog, and I went through traffic, and I brought the dog back into our house, and she died in my arms. And I learned from that point on that I had not been a good teacher for my daughter. She was 8 at the time. She had no idea. She had no framework, no concept, nothing did she relate to death because I had never taught her. And I was a social worker working in an elementary school with children that, some of them had death come up, but my own child didn't have a clue about it. And I learned real fast right then that not having those conversations really impacted both of us. And for her, she learned on that day what death felt like. The lesson was done. I mean, we still talked about, we still continued, and she's got a very healthy mindset about death right now. But for parents who have never talked to their children, start very, very small if you're able. Children that live on in rural areas and farms, it's a little bit easier. I think when you live on a farm, you learn death because agriculture and that happens. For people who live in towns and pets referencing that conversation, that's a hard one often. You can start smaller than that and use even seasons. The leaves fall off the trees in the fall if you live in an area that has seasons. It's the trees going dormant. It's not dead. It's going to come back, but it's dormant right now. Whereas plants, like if you're garden and you have to replant every spring, well, it's because they die. What is death? What does that mean? It means it's gone. So there's a great place to start. Another one that I tell people all the time, if you're in a place where you can't have a family pet or you're not able to have the places or the conversations where death is a little more normalized, like in a farming community or something like that, goldfish. And I say that
Oh,
very, very respectfully, but if you have ever had a goldfish, they don't live very long. Usually. Get a goldfish, and when that goldfish dies, because usually their lifespans aren't so long, when that goldfish dies, there's your opportunity to show your beliefs around death and dying, what bury it in the backyard if that's your belief system. Put it back out in nature. Whatever your belief is that happens to a human when you die, you can take that and push that right onto that fish. I know that sounds so elementary, but you can't believe the amount of people who have said, I have used that, it does work. So, but start small and young if you're able to, using real life and nature examples or family members. Usually there's a family member, a grandparent or an elderly aunt or uncle. Hopefully, somebody somewhere has a close sibling or a relative or an aunt or uncle that has passed away. Um, if it's possible to use that as a sounding board, but most children learn about death from having to go to a funeral, sadly. And at that
Yeah.
point, that hits hard, and their first impression in funerals is often crying and adults and the emotion, and that's what they feel. And so to them, they conceptualize death as a negative, which it can be conceptualized that way as well. But to open those conversations up and say it's more can be very important as well. But they need a frame of reference, and the earlier on they can have a frame of reference, anything, plants dying, goldfish, family pet, some kind of a frame of reference for them to build on as they get older and older. It's very important.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. So many things popped up. I really appreciate how you brought back, like whatever your faith is, because
Mhm.
that's also a really big deal in blended families. It can be really, really confusing if you have different kinds of faiths in there. Or even different belief systems, etc. So it's really, really um, important to make sure that those kinds of conversations do happen.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so for my most recently, when my mother-in-law passed last July, my young grandson was in my home a lot. She was his favorite person.
Oh,
Well, he traveled a lot and he was 3. So we hadn't really talked about it. And when he came back from being away for several months, she had passed. And none of us talked to him about it because we hadn't talked about death yet because he's 3, right?
three. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and so we took some time, and it took about, in the beginning, he asked where grandma was. Where's grandma?
Mhm.
Where's
Mhm.
grandma?
Oh,
And we just say she's not here, right? Don't want to lie to him, but
right,
he wasn't quite ready for it.
right.
When um, this last month, he turned to me and he was, Nona, where is grandma really? I said,
Oh,
grandma died. Oh, she died? Yeah. I
oh,
said, do you know what that means? And he said, yes, I know what that means.
oh,
I know what that means, and I said, well, will you explain to me what that means? And he said, well, it means she's gone. She's gone in heaven and she's not coming back. I said, how do you feel? He said, I feel sad. I said,
oh,
yeah, me too. And that was it. And it was fine. So
yeah,
I really appreciate that. But that, just the dealing with that, because we're dealing with several different religions and different parenting styles in one little boy.
yeah.
And I really appreciated that.
Yes. And so much, I
But
just want to add a quick point to that because what a great way to handle that. Great way. Address it and then, move on. And now he's got a reference point in the future, to be able to say, hey, grandma, that's exact same thing that happens. But oftentimes with children, um, even the young age children like that, there's not a better way to do it than to acknowledge. And I think the big part about is that I say that in funerals, when there's such a big group of people and they see the sadness in such a great group of people, to be able to take a child individually and to be able to let them feel your energy of, I'm sad, but it's okay because this is life, and it is life, and that's how it is. That's hard for a lot of people to do. So kudos to you for being able to make
yeah,
it his first um, his first experience with death. It
His
sounds
first,
like it.
and yes, and we're going to have probably lots more conversations
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
just because as maturity comes in, and that has to happen a lot. But let's go back to, from your, because we're going to keep this conversation. We're going to stay live on Facebook for just a few more minutes. And then we have some Wonder Mama members who are on this call with us who are probably chomping at the bit to ask some questions. But before we go, I do want to give you the opportunity to, I'm going to ask you one more question. And then will you tell us a little bit about, um, how do we get more of this kind of information with you, or just talk to you about it? Because if any of you know, this woman is lovely to talk to, down to earth, and really has done a lot of this work. But from your experience, how does having these conversations and plans in place change the emotional tone of the whole family's life? Like, what's the benefit?
Well, acceptance is so key. And I think you can't get to acceptance until you have an understanding. And my belief and my observation is that people who are prepared physically, they've got their papers organized, their personal information, their financial information, their physical um, assets documented and ready to pass on to who's ever going to need it when they're gone. If they've got a will in place or some kind of an end of life plan in place that says, here I would like you to have this, you to have this, you to have this, to have some conversations going on in your family unit. I think that's the first real big step, because once you have some of those practical tools in place, you're able to have bigger conversations, ongoing conversations, and the conversations grow as they grow. It sounds really simplistic, but it really is like that. The more you talk about death, the more you can talk about death. The more your
Mm,
acceptance of death, or the more you find yourself accepting of death, the more your family unit is going to find accepting his death, as in leaders in our families, which moms a lot of times are the leaders in the families. They set the tone for everything. So if your tone as a leader in your family is one of peace and calm and acceptance, then you spread that to the rest of your family. And I think it happens just organically. I don't think you have to work hard at it. I think the feelings, just the energy of you spreads to your family like anything else. And like you promote, Leon, the calm, taking the
mhm.
calm and just, whew. And
Yeah.
I come from a place where I just say preparation, I think, is the best way to being calm. When you're prepared,
Mm,
you take the emergency out of what can be taken out of. Not everything, but
mm.
a lot.
Loretta, this has been so beautiful. I mean, just starting this conversation live here on Facebook, and now inside the Wonder Mama group. But um, for those of you here on Facebook, if this has been a beneficial conversation for you, definitely come back next Wednesday. I will have a new guest for you. We do this every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. That's so that our friends over on the West Coast, they can have their coffee with us too. And if you would like to be more involved, to know more about what happens inside the Wonder Mama, I am not here to teach people how to parent. I don't teach people. Where I start, I don't start with with some sort of big tools. We start with steadiness and calm. That's where our magic happens. And that's what we're doing inside the Wonder Mama in many different ways. So for today in the Wonder Mama Coffee Chat, I want to thank Loretta for being here. Thank you so much. Um, is there any last thing, like how do we get in touch with you? Facebook people follow you?
Yep, I'm on Facebook, and that's my primary source. That's where you can find me, just Loretta Omland, Omland. And all my stuff is open there. So check me out. I'll
Okay.
help you if you want to get started.
Thank you so much, Loretta. Goodbye, Facebook. We'll see you next week on Wednesday at noon.